Hello, welcome to IGTV. I'm Angeline Ong, and this is your special look ahead to the week starting the 8th of January. Now, before we begin, it's going to be a huge week in terms of data and also the start of the earnings season with, of course, the US banks. So first one that I want to look out for is the economic side of things for you, the German trade balance and factory orders, and also the economic sentiment across the Eurozone and retail sales will be one to watch if you trade euros versus the dollar. Further on during the week, it will really become a retail picture because we've got the BRC retail sales monitor from the UK, retail sales figures from Australia, and also not forgetting industrial production out of Germany, unemployment numbers from the Eurozone, and trade numbers out of the US too. Watch out for API crude oil inventories as well as oil prices nudge slightly higher as Blinken is set to visit the Middle East. On Wednesday, we've got industrial production figures out of France and wholesale inventories out of the United States, including numbers from the EIA as well in terms of crude oil inventories. And a little later in the week, it'll be trade numbers from Australia and the CPI out of the US after those non-farm payroll numbers. We also get the latest reading on US initial jobless claims. And last but not least, we've got the China Consumer Price Index, monthly GDP numbers out of the UK, along with industrial data, and the Producer Price Index and the Baker Hughes oil rig count out of the United States. Well, joining me now from Chicago, all the way, it's very early there, is yours truly, Tom Sosnoff with Tasty Live, part of IG Group. Tom, thank you so much for joining us. Markets, especially in the US, have shown 5 days of 5 sessions rather, falls now. What does this indicate to you?
Well, the first thing I think of is, hey, we didn't have a down move for almost 2 months since the beginning of November. So we were really overbought. And it shows that the markets remain cyclical, which is good for traders. It shows that the markets can normalize, which is good for traders. And it also shows that when things get a little too complacent and we get too one-dimensional or one-directional, you have to be very careful. There was a lot of risk after that almost 2-month rally, and I think that some people are paying a small price for it right now, not too big, but a small price. And I think this is a healthy correction. I think it's good for business. I think it's good for trading. I think it's good for business.
Where do you think this is headed then in 2024? And many traders that I've been speaking to, and also the flows desk here at IG, they're all saying that one of the big things that they're looking out for is whether the US rate cut comes in March or whether that timing changes. How does that feed into your sort of trades?
Well, the US rate cut, it really won't fit into our trades until, there's no way when you're trading options or futures that in January you're looking at a March rate cut or, a nothing or rise, whatever it is. I think you just have to watch the bonds. So the bonds are the long bond is ZB, that's the symbol, and the notes are ZN, and those are, obviously both the listed futures products. And I think you just have to watch those. They've sold off hard. They've sold off hard this past week. And I think as long as the bonds continue to sell off, or as long as they don't really go much over, 124, 125, 126 range, I don't think there's much chance that you're going to see a rate cut. I think if bonds were to get over 125 or 126, there's a chance of them seeing a rate cut. I think the Fed will react to wherever the bond market is trading. I don't think it's going to be the other way around. So I think the bonds will be very predictive of what the Fed will do. So most people will know long in advance. Right now, it's a big nothing burger.
Sounds great. And just one really quick question. If you had to choose between rib tips and that fancy new thing that you were telling me about in Chicago that comes from brisket, which would it be?
Oh, well, you're talking about burnt ends. And
Yeah.
When I first got to Chicago, because I didn't grow up with a lot of barbecue. So, Angeline, when I first got to Chicago, I had rib tips for the first time. I remember like it was yesterday. It was at a place called Leon's Barbecue, and it was great. And I was like, these are the greatest things I've ever tasted. and because I never had them when I was growing up. And over the years, rib tips have kind of disappeared from the scene in Chicago, and they've disappeared also from other barbecue places like in Texas and Kansas City and Memphis and places like that. And everything's been replaced by what we call burnt ends, which is just an extra layer of smoke on the ends of a brisket. And once you have burnt ends, you're gonna say, I died, went to heaven, and I found barbecue heaven. So when you try it out, let me know.
Sounds incredible. I love rib tips, so I'm looking forward to that. Thank you very much. Tom Zosnov there from Tasty Live, part of IG Group. Now, it's going to be a really busy second week, trading week too, in terms of corporate earnings. Let's get you across them really quickly. Starting the week on Wednesday, we've got Greg Sainsbury's out with trading statements. So a real retail theme here, especially after that retail shopping season that we've just had over Christmas and New Year's, and of course started off in the US during Thanksgiving. Later on in the week on Thursday, it's Tesco and Marks and Spencer and Whitbread that will be out with trading numbers. It'll give us a real sense of how the season's been shaping up. Early indication is that the online space continues to do well, and discounting started earlier in 2023. And as I mentioned earlier, it's going to be a big week because we get all the US banks, Citigroup, Bank of America, well, most of the big ones anyway, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase out with numbers, and also Q4 earnings from United Health. And that's your special look ahead to the coming week. Until then, you can find more analysis from me on @Angeline Ong on Twitter or @IGCom. This is IGTV.